And for a long time, I thought it was just the two of us that had the shine to us. Just like you probably thought you was the only one. But there are other folks, though mostly they don't know it or don't believe it.
The Shine is a psychic power that connects almost all of Stephen King's stories. From The Shining to The Dark Tower to The Green Mile, the Shine shows itself to King's characters in many ways. It most commonly includes the ability to send and receive thoughts to and from other people, also known as telepathy. For those most powerful in The Shine, or the Touch as it's referred to in the Dark Tower series, it can also include sensing objects, precognition, and even telekinesis and pyrokinesis. The Shine most often shows itself after the character suffers some sort of trauma, though in the Dark Tower, the Touch seems to be mostly common knowledge.
I can remember when I was a little boy, my grandmother and I could hold conversations entirely without ever opening our mouths. She called it shining. And for a long time, I thought it was just the two of us that had the shine to us. Just like you probably thought you was the only one.
Maybe the most common way to shine. Power of telepathy allows the user to send and receive messages with their mind. This can mean anything from having a simple conversation between two people, to reading someone's mind without them knowing, to influencing them in some way. For example, in the famous clip from The Shining, Dick Halloran explains how he knew Danny was shining as soon as he got to the hotel. He also explained how he and his grandmother had full conversations without ever talking. In Dr. Sleep, we see Danny using his shine to give comfort to hospice patients. Later, he meets the other Dr. Sleep protagonist, Abra, who shines brighter than almost anyone else in the Stephen King universe, and communicates with her telepathically. The Mr. Mercedes trilogy begins in a much more down-to-earth fashion, following a detective tracking down serial killer Brady Hartsfield, who's bent on causing as much death and mayhem as possible. After Brady ends up in a coma at the end of the first novel, the trauma induces his shine. When he wakes at the beginning of the third book, End of Watch, he's able to use telepathy to the point of controlling minds. In The Stand, a disease is ravaging the country, and Mother Abigail is able to draw people from all over her farm for safety using telepathy.
How did you know to come to me in the first place?
We dreamed of you, Mother. Of you and the other fella.
Weren't you once the caretaker here?
Why, no, sir. I don't believe so.
I saw your picture in the newspapers. You, chopped your wife and daughter up into little bits. And then you blew your brains out.
The ability to speak to the dead is a main plot driver in many of King's novels. In The Shining, the Torrance family meets some of the people killed in the Overlook Hotel. The caretaker, Delbert Grady, who killed his family and is influencing Jack's downward spiral into insanity. The Grady twins, who just want to play. Mrs. Massey, who haunts room 237 after being left by her affair partner. The former owner of the Overlook, Horace Derwent, who just wants to make sure Wendy's having a good time. Later on, in Dr. Sleep, Danny releases him from the hotel, and he ends up assisting Danny and Abra against Rose in the True Knot. We can guess that Danny's parents have a twinkle of the shine, not close to the power of Danny, but enough to be susceptible to the ghosts. In Bag of Bones, Mike Noonan's story revolves around his interactions with ghosts, both helpful and malevolent. Though the ghost of blues singer Sarah Tidwell is the cause of many deaths around the lake, Sarah laughs. Mike also gets his own help from more recently dead ghosts that he knew before they passed on. Precognition is the ability to predict events before they happen, and many of King's stories revolve around this power. It is heavily related to clairvoyance, which many of the precognitive characters also exhibit. Some characters see things happen in dreams, like Mother Abigail. Johnny Smith might be the most gifted precog and clairvoyant that we see in King's stories. He showed signs of precognitive ability when he was only a child, but when he is involved in a car accident that caused him serious brain damage and a dead zone in part of his brain, the rest of his brain compensates and his abilities are heightened. After his crash, he's able to touch people and objects to experience visions and premonitions of their future.
You're gonna die here.
Brave words, dear. Is that what you really think? You're gonna hurt me?
Yes.
Only those that shine the brightest can project visions of themselves to other places, making astral projection a shine power that only a select few characters have. In Dr. Sleep, both protagonist Abra and antagonist Rose the Hat are able to accomplish this. They both use this power to manipulate each other, culminating in the climactic scene in the finale of the story. John Coffey in The Green Mile is one of the most heartbreaking characters in King's universe. He is simple, but extremely empathetic and caring, not to mention how bright he shines. Most likely has some power in telepathy, as he has a strong grasp on others' emotions. His most striking and unique power is his ability to heal. More specifically, he can take other people's pain and transfer it to himself, as well as transferring the pain onto others if he chooses. Throughout The Green Mile, he heals Paul's UTI, cures a woman of a brain tumor, and manages to pass the tumor on to the novel's main antagonist. He also resurrects a pet mouse that has been stepped on. A side effect of his help is an unusually long lifespan for those he heals. The mouse he resurrected ends up living 64 years, and at the end of the story, Paul is 104 years old, wondering how much longer he'll live. Another power only reserved for those with the strongest shine. Telekinesis is the ability to move objects with your mind. We already talked about Abra and Rose, but an even better example of the shining giving someone telekinetic powers is Carrie. One of the best examples of trauma amplifying someone's shine. Carrie is abused by her mother from a young age and is bullied relentlessly at school. She first remembers causing rocks to fall from the sky when she was very young, and practices her talents when she can get away with it. After the famous prom scene, her trauma peaks and she shows what kind of power shining is capable of. She's powerful enough to lock down a school from the outside, burst fire hydrants, move cars, explode gas stations, and bring down power lines. When she's finished, an entire town is wiped out and hundreds of people are left dead. In Firestarter, Charlie McGee is a little girl with extraordinary powers, even in the context of Shining. She's the daughter of Andy and Vicky, a couple that were changed forever when they participated in an experiment that gave them both telepathic abilities. When Charlie's still very young, the couple notice her showing precognition as well as pyrokinesis, the ability to control fire. As the story goes on, her powers continue to grow. By the end, she's able to use fire as a weapon, igniting people and objects at will. She can also use her power defensively by exploding bullets before they reach her.
You're a gunslinger, right?
There are no gunslingers. Not anymore.
The Dark Tower is Stephen King's magnum opus, and the series that connects almost all of his books together. It focuses on Roland Deschain and his two quartets, or groups of fellow gunslingers. In Midworld, The Shining is instead called The Touch, and is commonly known. Most people have some level of it from birth, but some characters are especially talented, and it shows in ways similar to those that shine in King's other works. Elaine is one of Roland's oldest friends and a member of his original quartet. Laid back, quiet, and loyal, he is the steady line of the friend group. Elaine has a level of precognition that showed him Roland's rite of passage before he even issued the challenge. Elaine, along with fellow quartet members Roland and Cuthbert, were involved in saving Stanley Ruiz, also known as Shimi. Shimi later returned the favor with his own touch powers, healing Elaine from the brink of death after he was attacked by muty wolves. Shimi didn't first show up in the Dark Tower series until the fourth novel, Wizard in the Glass, but he had a big role to play once he did. Originally rescued by Roland, Cuthbert, and fellow touch user Elaine, he was steadfastly loyal to their quartet from that day on. Despite his mental disabilities, he is an important team member to the group and has a lasting effect on the future of the Dark Tower. His powers have included varying levels of telepathy, healing, and even teleportation. One of the major characters of the Dark Tower series, starting with the Gunslinger, and a member of Roland's second quartet, Jake Chambers is a dynamic character that changes significantly throughout the series. Starting off as a confused and barely willing companion to Roland, his sensitivity to the touch grows as the story continues. Especially as he goes through a series of traumas and betrayals, he becomes a powerful gunslinger in his own right, complete with powers in the touch like telepathy and clairvoyance. Thanks for listening to this guide to the shine in the Stephen King universe. For anything that needs expanding or is just wrong, feel free to leave a comment and I'll make sure to add a correction. If you like this video, please like and subscribe for videos just like this.